Well, Schwartz talked about what was important in his defensive scheme as well today.
We run a very D-line friendly scheme that eliminates a lot of conflict for those guys, and we were able to play guys off of that, and we sort of let those guys go and be disruptive. And I know this, over the course of my career, I've talked to a lot of offensive coaches, I've talked to a lot of quarterbacks over the years, and the way you affect the game the most in this league is by pass rush. And, it's hard to win in coverage. The rules have changed. They make it hard to put hands on guys, illegal contacts, ICTDH, DPI, all those things. It's hard, and these wide receivers are freak shows. But, you can still win one-on-one on pass rush, and a devastating pass rush goes a long way. You can create turnovers off a pass rush. And if you can rush with 4, it allows your blitz game to be so much more effective because you start blitzing on your terms.
And again, kind of dictating tempo, but what that tells you is this defensive line room is due for an upgrade.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of knew defensive tackle was going to be the priority, something I said that, it needs to be a free agency need, not a draft need, because you need guys who can come in and have impacts. But you even look at just this season alone, the Browns were not able to get a lot of pressure. The third fewest in the NFL, I think it was 104, tied for the fifth fewest sacks, 34. And of those 34, Myles Garrett had 16. So when one guy's getting almost half your sacks, that's rarely ever a good sign. I mean, even from there, it's a 13-sack difference between Myles Garrett and Taven Bryan, who had the second most. So just no variety of pass rush help. It was basically Myles Garrett, and then everybody else, would pitch in once in a while. And that's, what we talked about last season was they just struggled to get any kind of pressure with 4. Joe Woods rarely blitzed, and you kind of understand why, because just didn't have the guys up front to create kind of pressure on their own. So with Jim Schwartz, we know he's all about creating pressure. That wide 9 scheme has been very successful, in multiple stops, where he's got the defensive ends out wider than the offensive tackles and the tight ends. So I think Myles Garrett's going to benefit from it. The question is where the help is going to come from and who kind of comes in, because clearly he wants to have his defense set up where his defensive line can be a strength and not the weakness, which outside of Myles Garrett, it's hard to find much on that defensive line that, really stood out last season.